morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are. We hope it is good. Welcome to another edition of Geeks Who Like Sports. As always, I'm Ray Carcillo in beautiful Los Angeles, California. Almost on fire, Los Angeles, California. Jumping the rest for the entire world over in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Lee Elias. Lee, what's the state? What's your fire state like?
Wait. Did you now describe Los Angeles as beautiful, on fire?
I mean, the
Is that how
fire's
you
pretty.
did that?
It's the fire is pretty.
Right, listen to me. I've got a fire pit in my backyard. You can come over. We can have a real beautiful fire day anytime you want. I don't want to hear about beautiful fire tornado Los Angeles. Although with an ADHD moment, I did see a video the other day of a bird that apparently goes like to the edge of these fires. Right, this is what they're starting to do. You can look this up. I am not making this up. And they'll grab a piece of like wood that's kind of slightly on fire, right? Like it's got an ember on it. They'll bring it to another area and drop it to light the area on fire to get like the mice and the rodents. Like it drops a fire bomb. So nature, beautiful nature, has figured out a way to use these fires to their own benefit, Ray. Yes. And as long as they stay not in Pennsylvania, beautiful. One day I'll be saying, well, we're here live in existing Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Ray, listen, I got a non-sponsor this week. Oh, all right, we juggle. I think with our geek powers, I try and find things that are relevant to our audience. And as a father, Ray, of two, one of the benefits, there's also many drawbacks, but one of the benefits is I get to snack a lot because we get a lot of the snacks for lunches, right? Mm-hmm. There's this gap between when you get out of high school, I think, or maybe college, because Top Ramen's a thing. But there's this gap where you kind of eat food, right? But now I'm back in the snacks, and I found one, Ray, that it's going to sound really dad-like the way I describe this, but I'm going to bring it in. It's the Lance whole grain peanut butter crackers. All right, these are delicious. I mean, they're really good. Guilt-free, Lance, I'm talking to you. Guilt-free snack of whole grain and peanut butter on a cracker. So when I get a little bit of the munchies, I think Ray, you know this. The bad part of the munchies at our age is you don't just have a little thing. Right. It's like, I'll just have this entire burrito as a snack, where that is in fact, by all nutritional information, more than a meal. But for us, it's a snack. But these little guys fill me up. I feel good. Whole grain. Look at this. I'm looking at the nutritional information. Not going to read it because that would be dumb. But not bad at all. So Lance, whole grain with peanut butter. They make a lot of other stuff too. They make the cheese crackers. I can't do those anymore. But thought these would taste like wood or cardboard. They don't. They taste like a nice smoked whiskey. That's not what they taste like, but that's that. You know, it tastes smoked.
That's what I want. That's what I want. I want peanut butter whiskey crackers.
Ray, we could make geek crackers, right? Peanut butter whiskey crackers is something I would buy in a heartbeat. We have to come up with a brand name though, because Lance is taken.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely wouldn't be Lance. I mean,
Fire Tornado. Lee's peanut butter and whiskey crackers.
Yes,
it's something else.
It's something else.
I'm looking forward to the show today because it's compact, but some somber topics and a geek update for you, which I know a lot of you are going to want to hear about, something that I got to do last weekend.
Yes, we got a few things to talk about. A couple little fun stories, couple of not so fun stories. But yeah, we're gonna kick things off with the Olympics. That's the big story in sports, of course, continuing on. The U.S. And China flip-flopping with each other every day in terms of the gold medal count. U.S. far in the lead in the overall medal count. But U.S. right now with 21 gold medals as of this moment of recording at just shy of 11:30 Pacific time on Tuesday the 6th. And China with 22 gold medals. So one behind right now for the U.S., but obviously still a week's worth of competition ahead of us. And there's been some really, really interesting stories. Obviously, the women's gymnastics team continues to dominate. The men's track team, the men's swimming team. The men won their rivalry with Australia that I didn't even know we had a rivalry with Australia in swimming until this year.
Very much do. Yeah, that goes way back.
I mean, I was going to say, I feel like though it's more one way. It's almost like the Mets Yankees, where it's like Australia's like the antagonizing little brother that like is like, oh, we want to go medal.
Well, it depends. I mean, like we had such dominance with Phelps and Ledecky here over the last 20 years that it can seem that way. But It's a little bit like that. I don't want to knock all of Australia. I'll say we've had more of the generational swimmers than they have.
Sure.
But in certain team competitions, yeah, no, but that's been going on for a better part of 20 years. I think what's happening, Ray, is 20 years has gone by, and you're like, oh, it's not that long, but it's been 20 years.
Yeah. 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 But the US won 9-8 in terms of US had 9 swimming gold medals. Australia had 8 swimming gold medals.
Yeah, it's close.
So
It depends on
very,
the
very close.
competition.
Yeah.
I do want to give a quick update, Ray. I did ask you last week on the show about how do we win the Olympics? Is it gold medals? Is it medal count? So I put a little poll up on my Instagram, got almost 200 votes. So
Wow.
that's an official poll. 100 votes makes something an official poll.
Yeah.
50%, 49%, 50% said gold medals is the way to gauge it. And I think it was a little bit less, like 20% had said the full medal count. But with that said, by the way, the other option was everybody wins for being at the Olympics, which
almost got as much as overall medal count,
overall, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of comments saying they should go to a 3-2-1 system. 3 points for gold. 2
I
points
agree
for
I agree with that as well.
I'm interested. I'm still leaning on the gold medal. Right, it's a competition in terms of first, but if they were going to make create an official standings.
Yeah,
I think that a point system would work, but that's also a very American thing, what we're talking about.
That's also true.
My favorite comment was this really snide, like, "I'll leave it to Americans to only care about golds." And I'm like, yeah, I wish it was only Americans. That's the dumbest thing I think I've heard today. I'm pretty sure every country wants a gold medal. Although I do understand gold medals per capita in terms of that larger conversation. Right. But if we were the only country saying this, I'd say you're right, but we're not. There's a lot of other countries.
No, there's a lot of European countries. Obviously, China feels the same way. Like,
for example, in North Korea, they have won every gold medal so far.
Yeah.
Including ice hockey, which is not even a competition right now.
Yeah. Amazing how that happens.
They're undefeated in the Olympics. They've won every gold, silver, and bronze, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
And Russia's not even there. But they are, but they're not.
Yeah, but they're not. They're not there at all. Actually, it's a little weird having no Russian athletes. Not even the Russian Olympic Committee is there.
Yeah,
but it's for a good reason. I hate to say it. It's not fair to their athletes, but there's a reason that happens. It's supposed to be a peacetime competition, and it is not peacetime in Russia right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it. Good on the IOC for sometimes the IOC gets something right. Not all, not usually, but
and I should clarify. The Olympics happen whether there's a war or not, but as an aggressor to start a war, they got banned. That is what happened. It's not a peaceful moment for Russia, but there's a lot of countries there, like Israel, Ukraine has athletes represented. Not a peacetime there either. So
right, yeah.
God bless the Olympics for bringing people together.
Yes, we're trying to anyway. Another fun story. The men's 4 rowers won gold for the first time since 1960, since the Rome Olympics of 1960. So that's a losing streak that has been snapped for the US. Couple other events. US lost the swimming event for the first time ever. This week they got silver. I think the Irishman got the gold in that event. I can't remember. I got it all.
Yeah, no, there's been a lot of American resurgence in the Olympics this year. I mean, we really are jumping ahead. I mean, I know rowing was one. I know the men's gymnastic teams medaled for the first time in a very long time.
Yes.
Yes.
First time in 16 years, I think it was.
Yeah, there's a bit of an optimistic feel for our athletes this year. It feels like we're surging. Obviously, we now have the fastest man alive. With Noah having won.
Won the 100-meter dash. Yep.
This is it's been a good Olympics for America. You can feel good as an American sports fan right now.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's the thing, folks. Like, again, like the U.S. is 1 behind China right now in the medal count, but they're 20 or they're 4. So they're almost 20 up.
No one's catching us here at this point.
Actually, let me do 20. They're 24 up in the overall medal count. Like that's a lot.
Yeah, I haven't seen medals. I haven't seen that before. I've seen us up by some,
but not not 24. And I know they're obviously they're going to be that might change, but there's also events that we're also expected to win. They're also very good in that are still coming up, and it's like wow, like we are really dominating the Olympics this year.
I think it's also a testament, Ray, to the diversity of America, right? In the sense that our immigration is so much, right? We have so many people coming here. And that our athletes are very diverse looking, right? They're diverse pasts. So America really benefits from people from all over the world coming here. right?
Yeah.
It gives us probably a little bit of a competitive advantage, population size too. But we get people from everywhere, and I'm not going to make a statement here, but it's like when you look at other countries, by and large, that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think that's something that's really cool about America, that everybody kind of wants to be here. And this is a generational comment, right? This isn't like the last 5 years.
Yeah.
But we have a really diverse group of people that compete. I think that's something else to be proud of, right? Like when there's plenty of things to be upset about right now, there's good stuff too if you look for it. And I think the diversity of America is on display right now at the Olympics.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. We now have to get to a touch of controversy, of course, at the Olympics, because there's always controversy.
It's so dumb, it's brilliant. No,
yes,
it's just dumb.
Yes, as it's a great. I love
that's the line for this entire thing.
Yes. Lee, you said it perfectly before we went on the air. It's like if you weren't offended, if you weren't offended before this, don't start being offended now. Like, and honestly, like you shouldn't be offended anyway because it's just. Where to start?
No, be offended. Let's discuss it.
Where to start?
If you're offended by this, I'm interested to hear your thoughts as well.
Yeah, because you're an idiot. Basically,
it's so dumb.
The women's boxing, obviously, is a sport. Aman Khalif, a Algerian boxer, 9-5 in international competition. Knocked out. I mean, basically knocked out. She threw in the towel.
Yeah.
She broke her nose. Second punch of the match against the Italian boxer, she broke her nose, which happens in boxing because you're getting punched in the face for a living.
It's known to happen.
Yeah, it's known to happen. And I will say this: if you're not used to having your nose broke, it can definitely be jarring. And it stinks that for the Italian, this is how her Olympic run ended. We're having to throw in the towel because she got stunned, right? And that happens, right? But immediately, people started jumping on Aman Khalif, and I hope I'm saying her name correctly, and being like, well, of course she broke her nose. She's a man. What? And they're like, yeah, she looks like a man. And I'm like, well, my first thought was like, well, if somebody gets punched in the face for a living, they're probably not going to be quote unquote conventionally pretty. But like, just my thoughts on that. But like, I'm like, but who cares? And they're like, well, she has a condition that gives her elevated testosterone, and she got banned from a IBA, and that's International Boxing Association tournament after they did a test of her and it was like, did you do any research? This was a woman, born a woman, competing as a woman because she's a woman. There was never, and the Russian test, by the way, the reason why she got banned from that IBA event was because, and hold on to your hats, folks. She beat a Russian boxer, and the president of the IBA or the CEO is Russian. And they kind of fabricated this whole like test thing. What a concept. You mean the Russians are gonna stack things against people that beat them? You mean that the Russians are gonna do things that are corrupt and are gonna do like, oh my God, let's call Artemi Panarin and Alexander Ovechkin and warn them about how bad the Russians are. No, come on, guys. Like, duh. And so this came out, the Italian made fun of her for all this, which by the way, Aman's also not Aman just actually beat the Hungarian to go to advance in the women's boxing tournament, who also has elevated testosterone, by the way. But guess what? In the IOC's rules, also, by the way, again, we just talked about how Russia is not in the Olympics at all. This is a part of the reason why, right? Like, I mean, yes, obviously the big war, but also because they can't be trusted. This is a joke. You're sorry, folks. I'm going to call it what it is. Your transphobia is showing. Like, that's what it is. Like, now you're making stuff up. You're going after every room. It's like, and the Italian woman's like, oh, she's a man. She later apologized because, of course, also Aman Khalif lives in a country, Algeria, where if she were trans, she would be murdered. Right? So now her life is in danger because now she has to once again when she goes back to her home country, she has to show all the paperwork that she was born and is still a woman. So let's not also even get into all those other issues, right? Like, you're idiots. You're idiots. I didn't do the best job explaining this, but the bottom line is you're all morons. Because like it's a joke that you got so you're looking for folk where there's no even no there's no smoke. You're looking for fire, there's not even smoke. Like, it's just women trashing women now. I don't know. Like, it's mind-boggling. Lee, what are your thoughts?
But I didn't think you did a bad job of that. I mean, look, I'll give a little bit here. So the timeline of this was that she won that fight. I think the Italian lady fighting, I don't know her name, made a comment about it not being fair, which she later took back. She apologized and said that she should not have said that.
Yes.
So that's what sparked this inferno, if you will. I'm going to be really honest with you, Ray. I am just completely exhausted with the political machine in this country on both sides, looking for any gotcha moment to complain and bitch.
Yep.
I, as an athlete and as a coach and as someone who works in sports, am really just disappointed that was able to make its way into the Olympic Games for this year. And as you said, Ray, in a situation where very, very little research was obviously done.
None.
Right? And somehow this has turned into the political tornado of, well, we don't know who's telling the truth. I'm like, no, this one's pretty cut and dry, my friends, of what the truth is. She is a woman. I mean, I will say that right now.
That's it.
This doesn't need to be there. Our producer, Angela Carini, excuse me, it was the Italian boxer. And good on her for apologizing, by the way. That takes
and I also like Zabi's comment. Transvestigating women is a wild concept.
We should do a new show, Transvestigating. With the two whitest dudes alive. Today's guest. No, I'm going to say it again. Look, I'm pretty fiercely independent politically. It's the only time I'll talk about my politics on the show. But I am so exhausted again and because both sides do this. They look for things, they get these gotcha moments, and then it becomes a stupid conversation that, thank goodness, I think that the good side of the Olympics has drowned the story out. But the need for everyone, including us, to have to comment on this, right? To comment what we feel about the boxer. It's just like, oh my God, do I wish we could go back before the internet sometimes.
Yeah.
Where this wouldn't have even been a conversation.
No.
Actually, it would have been, well, she looks like a man. That's as far as that would have gone. All right.
Yeah.
And it is so dumb to me. It's so dumb that we have to have conversations like this or even discuss it on the show. Stop looking to just be right. That's the problem. No one wants to discuss things or educate. It would have been absolutely fine to me, Ray, if someone had asked me for my opinion, saying, I'm confused about what's going on there. Is that person a man or a woman? I honestly don't know. And then we could look it up and discuss it like people. But the amount of social media postings of just nonsense, none of it was backed in anything, shows, I think, Ray, a larger problem that we're having in society right now, which is the need to say, I gotcha, and my side's right. As an independent, depending on the issue, and there's going to be a lot of people disagree with me on this, and that's fine. I don't think either party has a higher moral standing than the other. I think they're both bullshit. That's what it means to be independent. All right. For every right-leaning issue that you think right-leaning people think you've got the edge, there's an equal and opposite left-leaning issue, and I am exhausted by it all. Again, if you ever want to discuss to me my feelings on something, tell me the issue you want to discuss, and I'll tell you my feelings on it. I do not lean left or right. I do not claim either party because I hate them both. All right. That's where I stand. So the fact that this shit got into the Olympics and then spread like wildfire shows a larger problem. The need to prove that I stand on this. I'll give you another, as my whole desk falls apart, I'll give you another one here. Okay. And again, this will stir up some emotions. And this is going to prove my point. A candidate for the presidency was almost assassinated. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. That's not okay. I don't care what side you're on. I don't care who it was. We don't do that. And the fact that that turned into what it turned into and has almost been forgotten scares me. And I'm not holding water for Trump when I say that. I'm saying the fact that an American candidate for president was shot at is a bad thing. We should all agree with that. Just like we should all agree this story is nonsense in the sense of that it's more about being right. It's not nonsense in the fact that Amani, it's a shame that she has to deal with this crap. Although I'll be honest with you, I don't think she cares because she's at the Olympics. She probably doesn't care what Americans think about her. That's probably the other side of this thing we're not discussing.
Yes, it probably hasn't even reached her, this blowback. But like,
does not care. She has bigger problems in her life. Trust me.
No, she's focusing on trying to get a medal, and I think that's the thing is that like, you know, it also undermines her great story about how like she had to like sell scrap metal like at a junkyards to try to like, or two junkyards to try to like get money for her boxing lessons and stuff growing up and all this other stuff. Like it's unbelievable. I mean, and again, to the point of like,
well, if I may,
where also people just making knee-jerk reactions with no research. To your point, like you're like Pat McAfee to
it's stupid.
I saw people posting stuff from Hot 97 talking about like they had just to react to something when they have none of the information.
And the media,
and you just sound like like idiots when you do that.
The media is partially to blame too for stoking the flames here. But you know, like here, you want the largest part of the story, and this is what Americans have forgotten, in my opinion. And I am sounding a little holier than thou, but it's more perspective. She probably can't even talk about this where she's from. She'll get arrested or killed or worse. She can't even convey her feelings about this if she even has any. Whereas we can all post online as much as we want with no repercussions. There's some freaking perspective for you. Like we can talk about it all we want. She can't even speak about it. All right? Because she'll get arrested or again, or worse in her own country.
Right. And again, and this goes in also into the common sense aspects of it. Again, if you know anything about this, if she was a trans person in Algeria, she would be killed.
She wouldn't be a trans person in Algeria. She'd
right, exactly. Yeah. So you think that while living in Algeria, while selling scrap metal to junkyards to pay for her boxing lessons, that her and her family, they sent her to Europe or America for gender therapy or for whatever? Like common sense here, folks. Like think about it just doesn't make any sense on any level. But again, if you did just the slightest bit of research, if you looked into this even a minuscule amount,
if only we had
wouldn't
a device.
Be a moron like Pat McAfee or someone else out there making a knee-jerk reaction over this and then propagating what Angela Carini said and taking what she said and amplifying it to the millionth percent and turning nothing into something that now we have to spend energy turning back into nothing.
That's a good way of looking at it, right? Look, I'll just end this by saying that the positive notes from the Olympic have overtaken this story 100 to 1. And I'm happy about that, right? Because this is it's a trash story. In my opinion, it's trash. It's a trash situation where people just want to feel heard and they don't really care about Aman Khalif at all. But again, I am happy to see the positive side of the Olympics kind of breaking through. There's way more positive stories that are being focused on. You got to give NBC credit for not taking the time to focus on this story too much either, right? They've kind of done this right and just kept moving forward.
I think they mentioned it once. They made one quick statement on it and how the IOC, basically, which was the IOC's statement, I think, on it. They reported on that.
Oh yeah,
and they moved on very quickly.
Yeah, and that was probably the correct way to do this. It doesn't warrant more oxygen.
Yeah.
So anyway, the Olympics have been great. We'll have a final closing Olympic show next week. But you know, look, I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to be a fan of USA sports. I always have been, right? And I think that it's really important with the Olympics that we all remember what this is about. Is that these countries are going together. You can stand and hold your flag pretty proud here, and support your country in the Olympics. I think we should be looking for moments like that instead of looking for moments of division. That doesn't mean countries don't have problems, but the whole point of the Olympics was that we laid down our arms to compete. Yeah. This goes back thousands of years. All right. I believe in that still.
Yeah. what I believe in.
This could go a lot of different directions. Cheese is a better food than apples. I mean,
Well,
that
that's fair,
that
but
that the
yeah,
original
like
Batman film is
it's
better than all the other ones. I mean, there's a
yeah,
lot of
Batman 89
yeah.
is still the best. But yeah, no, well, actually, make it work real, I believe in Joe Hendry, who although was not part of SummerSlam, is going to have has an interesting contract now where he can be both part of WWE NXT and TNA and go back and forth between the two companies with a pretty regular basis. And I think it's obviously that's great for wrestling. He's not the first wrestler to do this, but he is the first wrestler to really do this with WWE. Or I should say, well, I mean, he's with TNA and now kind of TNA's been very much always about getting our guys out there at least the last few years. Will help our brand as a whole. And obviously TNA has had people at AEW, and then obviously they've had Jordan Grace at the Royal Rumble, and now Joe Hendry, though, becoming a huge part of NXT, training down at the Performance Center down in Florida. And honestly, yeah, I believe in Joe Hendry, and that's fantastic. But he was not part of SummerSlam this weekend as much as we all wanted him to be. This was a big weekend for SummerSlam.
It was the turn we predicted, Ray. It was the turn of the story.
It was almost too predictable.
Right.
Like I do a fantasy wrestling thing with some friends in the gaming industry, and I predicted every match perfectly correct. Like everything from the betrayal of Dominic Mysterio of Rhea Ripley to the betrayal of Damian Priest by Finn Balor to the finishes with Drew McIntyre beating CM Punk and and obviously Braun Breaker taking the Intercontinental Championship. But no, there was a lot of great moments, honestly. LA Knight beating the piece of garbage Logan Paul and taking the US title. Speaking of the US, it was a good show, if not predictable. And then of course Roman Reigns coming back and helping out Cody Rhodes, not really to help Cody, but basically to screw Solo, basically putting us on the fast track, in my opinion, to a new Bloodline versus old Bloodline Survivor Series War Games match in November. Lee, what were your thoughts on SummerSlam?
It was the turn in the stories that needed to happen to set up the rest of the year, right? And I think sometimes when you have stories like this, you have to have some predictability, unfortunately, to get them to where you need to be. I mean, by and large, most people seem to really enjoy SummerSlam. It was not what WrestleMania was. Some people are kind of talking like that. I'm like, no, WrestleMania was its own thing. It was one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time. But yeah, the turn needed to happen. Like we said this after WrestleMania, they had to set up these stories. Now you have like the Empire Strikes Back moment, right? Where it's like, oh, these people are back and these things have happened, and now you have to lead up. Now, what I do think is that the SummerSlam setups, that's a tongue twister, have set up some really interesting possibilities. Whereas now we don't fully know where things are going to go with these storylines, right? We have an idea. I do think you're right about the old and new bloodline. I like that story. That's a wrestling story that always seems to play out pretty well as long as they don't do it for too long.
Right.
And I've said this before. We know The Rock is coming back. We know John Cena is going to play into things. Now trying to put that puzzle together becomes very interesting and very fun. And again, I'm interested to see where this is going to go. I felt like we were kind of waiting for this SummerSlam. Like, okay, let's just get this kind of done with. Not in a bad way. I mean, the matches were great. I love seeing LA Knight, by the way.
Yes.
Like that was a fun intro, and
we
had fun with that. It was a fun time. But
sure.
yeah, I mean, it was what it was. It wasn't the greatest SummerSlam of all time or anything like that, but it was necessary.
No. Yes, it was a necessary one. Again, it forwards the story. Punk and McIntyre will continue to feud in one of the best feuds of really probably this generation. Really, it's become that epic of a feud. And then last night on Raw, Seth Rollins helping to get Big Bronson Reed over, which was great to see. Probably put Seth back on the shelf for a little while as he continues to nurse injuries. And also bring up a young up-and-coming talent. A lot of big guys coming onto the show last night. Big Bronson Reed getting a push. Odyssey Jones coming back out of nowhere. Man, he's a big boy, and he was slamming everybody around. That was phenomenal. kind of taking over as the quote unquote, I guess, the Big E role in the New Day now, which I think is a great way to utilize him, as it does sound like Big E's career is probably over, of course, after breaking his neck a couple years ago. And although he is healthy and well, his neck has not healed to the point where he can take a bump anymore, which unfortunately happens. But yeah, I mean, look, we knew Braun Breaker was at some point going to take the title off of Sammy. Again, it's older talent elevating younger talent. Braun Breaker's the future. We love Sammy. You can still do so much with Sammy, but putting that belt on somebody like Braun is the right move. We knew Gunther was going to beat Damian Priest. Obviously, the idea of, again, similar to the Bloodline, new Judgment Day versus old Judgment Day, right? Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest now, they call themselves the Terror Twins. They're still together, kind of like as a mini faction, whereas the new Judgment Day, led by Finn with his buddy JD McDonough, Carlito, who I don't know why he's still there, but he's there. Dirty Dom Mysterio, and of course now Liv Morgan taking over the Rhea spot in that. Was great.
That frees up Rhea too to do some cool things now too.
100%. And the thing is also you had to do that because Rhea was such a face at this point, right? You had a face kind of basically leading a heel group, and it was not going to be able to keep working going forward.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, that storyline was getting old. And it was like, she needs to stand on her own 2 feet, which she's obviously going to do here. And I just think that frees her up for a lot more possibilities in a positive way.
Yes, absolutely. And Xavier, producer, says he loves SummerSlam as it sets up a lot of longer stories, a lot of title changes. It's a Triple H classic for sure. And look, there have been rumors that the WWE, because of Logan Paul's schedule and his lack of commitment, we'll say, not in terms of committing himself to wrestling, but in terms of being able to do all the shows and commit all the time to it, putting the U.S. title back on a full-timer like LA Knight is the right move.
Who deserves it, by the way?
Who's been working his butt off and will do a great job to re-elevate that title. After, again, Logan, this was only Logan's 3rd defense of the title in almost a full year, which is a sin for a title, especially after you saw what Gunther did with the IC belt. Right. So, but yeah, I'm glad Gunther's the world champion. He's going to be taking on Randy Orton now at Bash in Berlin, which I like, but Randy's not going to win because you're not going to have Gunther.
Well, look, most likely not, right? Most likely, but who knows? This is where I said some of these twists could come in.
Right.
Right? It's unlikely, but you never know.
Because here's my thing. I want Randy to win because I want him to get closer to Flair's record. But, I mean, to Zabi's point, you're going to be in Germany for Gunther. The crowd might riot if Gunther lost to Randy.
I mean, look, that's what I'm trying to say. You don't know what they're going to do. It highly likely Gunther will win. Possibility for a disqualification type deal, right?
Sure, you gotta have Ludwig Kaiser.
Yeah.
The ring general.
Yeah.
Gunther.
Ray, I believe you should do the rest of the show in that voice. Yeah?
Yeah, yes, I am Ludwig Kaiser. I am Ludwig Kaiser.
I have.
You must get the ring. You shall give. I demand your attention.
Ray, the German people use all the muscles in their face. They don't lock half of them.
Ludwig Kaiser does not use all the muscles in his face.
He does not. But the German people.
I am not.
None of the German people. Oh man, this is really close to hello, sir. Going down, sure. Hello, new.
Ludwig Kaiser's from the shoulders up. Ludwig does not move. It's like he's a Batman. It's like he's got the Batman '89 costume on, right? He can't turn his neck. It's just, he's just. I cannot deal with you, Sheamus. I have bigger fish to fry as I ring announce for the ring general.
I'm shocked and terrified. too afraid to speak right now. Now, listen, it was a good SummerSlam. Not knocking it. It was predictable. I like that we have some unpredictability into this now, and it's going to be interesting to see how things. Again, Cena will play into this somehow. We know that. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes. But yeah, like it was a necessary story, right?
Yeah.
It was like a predictable episode or something. It doesn't mean it was bad. Just means that you kind of knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, it paid off the way it needed to pay off.
Right. That's a good. There he is. That's the line we were looking for.
Yes. So, speaking of actually, there was also a lot of music to SummerSlam. I don't know if you saw this. Jelly Roll choke slammed Austin Theory.
Yeah, I did see that. Austin Theory has become the beating stick of it.
He can take a bump like no one else, and it feels like because he was Vince's boy for a while, and now obviously Vince is
Yeah. You must pay for your indiscretions in the best way possible. The entire roster will hurt you.
Yes, exactly. Like you're part of a celebrity comedy segment now.
Yes. Pay your dues. So, you will.
Although he did get a tag team win last night.
People forget Triple H had to pay his dues, man. There was some real dicey times there in his early years. He could have been out of the WWF.
And he also paid a lot of penalties with the Wolfpack when Nash and Hall left for WCW.
Yeah, he high-fived them basically on the way out.
Yeah, and they did the Wolfpack.
I can just hear Vince.
Yeah, you broke kayfabe.
Now we do press conferences. Now we do press conferences, which is actually we should talk about that real quick. The press conferences are really good. I like the way they've set these like post-game press conferences, and they're like a fourth wall nightmare. It's like half breaking the fourth wall, half not. I was watching Cody Rhodes up there, kind of fully in character, like, yeah, no, we don't like each other, and it's weird that you want. Then Triple H is like, well, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. That's like, this is amazing. This is mind-boggling how they're trying to do this.
Yeah, no. Real quick before we speaking of fourth wall breaks, actually before we get into your thing, Lee, I also want to briefly mention.
I got my brother got me a T-shirt.
That's amazing, and
it says Marvel Jam, playoff of NBA Jam. And it's got Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm holding it up for these of you listening right now. But I like it, Ray. The stats. Deadpool, looks 0. Wit, 95%. Filter, 0. Effort, maximum. It's all the way filled up. And Wolverine's patience is 0. Hygiene is 0. Charm is 0. Grumpy, 100%.
Yeah.
So great shirt. Thank you, Alan. My brother coming through, as always.
But Deadpool made a little history this week, as it set the box office record for an R-rated domestic film here in the States. It broke the box office record. It beat Passion of the Christ after a 20-year run. Deadpool is indeed Marvel Jesus. He did it. He
did it. I had one friend who's very religious say that the Marvel Jesus line bothered him.
Oh God.
And I didn't know what to say to him. I was like, you know what? I didn't want to say anything like, well, blah, blah. No, it's like, all right, that's how you feel. But he loved the movie, so I'll take it. Fictional characters.
Why so serious?
Yeah, no, I think that's one way of looking at it. Ray, I got to do something fun. I'll let you intro this, but this is another chapter in the lore that is my really deep fandom now of Back to the Future. I think I might be one of the top fans of this. I think
that's fair.
I'm starting to get there. I have an out-of-time license plate right there on set.
It's you and it's you and the former Playboy Playmate here in LA that owns 6 DeLoreans.
There's a Playboy Playmate that owns 6 DeLoreans?
Yeah.
I will be right back.
She's here in LA.
I'll be right back. I love her. Just kidding.
You can't.
I should make note that not nepotism, but we might have someone on staff here that knows my wife pretty closely. I would never leave my wife for 6 DeLoreans. 7 DeLoreans, though.
Yeah,
I still would not do that.
Which, by the way, you're wearing a DeLorean shirt.
I thank you for noticing. There it is.
I
for those of you listening, it's my shirt says DMC, which is DeLorean Motor Company.
Yeah.
Ray, I like subtle things that like someone like you would pick up on, but also if someone might see that, like, what's that? Right. Yeah. And I not only is the shirt DeLorean silver, but it's DMC, DeLorean Motor Company. Thank you. I wore this to the musical. Yes. I sat down. Nice. A guy next to me said, "That's a cool shirt, dude." And I was like, "Yeah, thank you, sir." I counted on this audience to have a clue.
You were amongst your people, my friend.
I was. All right. So obviously the news is I got to see the Back to the Future musical this past weekend at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. on their traveling tour. They're going all over the country. And Ray, I got some props to show and speak about one. I got a Back to the Future tote bag here with the cast from this one. I'll talk about the musical in a minute, people. But yeah, I got this, and then I got a magnet, Ray, and here's the program. Here's the program. Nice. But I'm gonna open this. I have not opened this yet, Ray. We're a fan of mugs here on Geeks Who Like Sports. This will not replace my Geeks Who Like Sports mug, but I do want to show you the Back to the Future musical mug. Bum, 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 ba-dum. Okay, it's out. It's upside down. It's it's got a Back to the Future logo on one side with lightning, and on the other side, it's the flux capacitor.
I thought that was
which
the
is
flux
what
capacitor.
makes time travel possible. And then on the inside, Ray, it says 1.21 gigawatts, correctly
Nice.
pronounced gigawatts, but Christopher Lloyd said it wrong, and it just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And it says Back to the Future, the musical. McFly Productions Limited. Microwave and dishwasher safe, made in Thailand, which
Oh.
is great because DeLoreans were not made there. But I got this mug. I thought this was an appropriate item to have. Let's talk about the musical though for a minute, because I know we have a lot of Back to the Future fans that listen to the show.
Mhm.
I'll give a mild spoiler alert here. If you for some reason need to see this without knowing any of the things that they changed, this is the time to tune away. Although I don't think anything I'm going to tell you is going to be crazy. So, first off, Ray, really great. Just a ton of fun. The musical was hyper aware that you have most likely seen this film,
Right.
right? But it's also done in a way of like, if you're a young kid, if you've never seen it, you can still follow it, right? So first off, the big changes that they make is that Doc is no longer killed by Libyans, because I understand why they did that. But what they did, which was pretty clever, is that he becomes irradiated from the plutonium that he uses, right? So they do a new storyline that his radioactive suit is 20 years old, and it kind of rips, and he gets irradiated by the plutonium, right? And now Marty's got to go back, and that's what he's trying to warn him of. On the night I go back, you get irradiated. It's much safer.
Yeah.
The way that they did that. So that was kind of the big change. Now you're probably asking yourself, how do they do the DeLorean stuff? It was amazing. So there's a full DeLorean in this musical. And to my knowledge, they have utilized this new kind of theme park technology where it's an automated like roll, like it's on its own track and it's computerized. So the DeLorean moves with the screens that you have up there, and the screens have projections of like it moving down the street, and the car turns with the street. I mean, it looks like it's moving.
That's
right?
cool.
And again, I won't spoil the end. You know how the movie ends, but the scene when he goes back in time, it's amazing. I mean, it's amazing. And again, like the cool parts, like George McFly, who actually has a really large part in this. Goldie Wilson has a larger role in the film, right? He has his own music, but everyone's a little accentuated. Like, so they're all amplified versions of themselves, from Doc to Marty to Lorraine, right? But George McFly is really funny. I think one of my favorite parts is, he does that laugh in the movie, the that like they really play off that in the musical. Like he does that several times. And the music is obviously great, but I'm obviously excited about this. But there's so many numbers that deal with the film, and like they really dive into Marty not fitting in and his dad having no future, and Lorraine kind of being a bit of a whatever you want to insert your own word there if you've seen the movie. And Strickland is fun. Biff is fun. They just did a really good job. The best part is that when it ends, the screen comes down and says, "Make like a tree and get out of here."
Yeah.
Right. But they did it. Oh, and the ending, I should say this again, mild spoiler. This isn't going to ruin anything for you. But when he comes back, it's not, they don't go back to the house and George has a book out. Hill Valley has George McFly Day now. And he has written Back to the Future 4 is his newest book.
That's
right.
great.
It's just really was a lot of fun. Highly recommend it if you want to see it. Again, I gave spoiler, so I don't feel bad if you kept listening there. But the music's great. It's really fun. And there's even a bit, last one, Ray. There's a bit in the middle, right after intermission, where Doc is like singing this futuristic song about what's the future going to be like. And they have a lot of fun with that, especially with the year 2020. They have a lot of lines in there how 2020 is going to be the best year ever, free of disease. But it's this like it's like a Dio video. It's very 80s feeling, obviously, like the future from the 80s. Right. And it ends with him like waking up in his apartment. Like Marty wakes him up, like, "Doc!" He's like, "What? Oh, Marty, I was just having the greatest dream." But it was really good. I'm really happy that we got to go. It was a great show. Yeah, well done. It's worth seeing just for the DeLorean. And again, they do a great job of using I call it the screen technology, where they can project things on multiple screens to give layers to the set. But I mean, it looks like the DeLorean. is moving and flying, and they make some funny nods to Back to the Future 2 and 3 throughout the musical. I'm Lee Elias. I'm excited about musical theater.
Nice. I never thought I'd hear you say that you were excited about musical theater.
Oh, you know what's funny, man? I did a lot of musical theater. Like I would go to those a lot growing up. I mean, there's this whole side to me I don't talk about. Because everybody knows me as a sports guy, but I've said it before. I was in choir for 10 years. I've always had an aptitude for music.
That's
and I've
true.
been to a lot of musicals. I've been to a lot of musicals in my life. And I think that there is something about going to a theater, not a movie theater, but a musical theater.
Yeah.
And experiencing either music or musical theater or a play where you're kind of with people experiencing that. I think we've lost that a bit. And I think it's important that we get that back. That was one of the other things that I noticed there was that it's fun. Like one of the things about Back to the Future, Ray, and you could say this about a lot of films, like Star Wars, a lot of the films we grew up with, is that sometimes when you go to these, Rocky Horror Picture Show would be a great example of this.
Right.
When you go to the theater and see it with people, there's parts of it that are really funny that you forget are really funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when the whole theater laughs at some of these funny things, it's a different experience. Like watching Back to the Future, just the movie in a theater with other people, and you laugh when Marty's in the radioactive suit being Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan. It adds a little something to the movie. Or like Ghostbusters, right? When you go see Ghostbusters again, a lot of these things are really important, I think. And I think we should get back to that. I wonder if there's going to be a market for that in the future, where there's more of this stuff coming out. You're starting to see it a little bit. Like a lot of movie theaters are doing like old films coming back and stuff.
I mean,
like
here
that,
here in LA, like there are theaters that just specialize in just reshowing movies from the 80s and 90s and whatever. And just they're like, yeah, today's like I think they did oh gosh, what was it? They did like a Nicolas Cage double feature. Like they did when what was it? Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent or something came out, and they did like a special where it was like it's The Rock and Face Off, and it's like Nicolas Cage action double feature come for $10, and it was like, yeah, a lot of theaters out here do this.
It's interesting, yeah. And again, with this musical, it was cool because they really played to our age group, because that that film was our age group. But it's interesting. I was just talking to about this the other day too, is that you and I come from a generation where nothing was on demand. So we would have our box of movies and we'd watch them over and over and over and over again. That's why we have seen Batman 89 157,000 times, right?
Yes.
And whereas my kids don't do that. And I understand it. First off, there's just unlimited options.
Yeah,
and everything's on demand.
Way more media in general
to
consume
today.
I
had to explain to my daughter the other day, and I didn't think this was a bad thing. I had to explain the other day that the radio, I can't go back. Like I can't go back and listen to that song again. Now we could go to my phone and do that, but I had to explain to her that's not how radio works. And she asked me, "Why do you like the radio so much?" And I said, "I think there's something cool in not knowing what's coming next. There's an anticipation there." And again, like that's that's her age. That's the world she lives in. So I'm not upset about it. But I do wonder sometimes if there's not a lot of repeat viewings, right? Like something has to be really, really interesting or good to watch it again, right? Like Deadpool and Wolverine, I want to see again, but it's not something I'm probably going to want to see 100 times.
No.
Maybe that's an exception, but there's very few films out there that I want to see over and over and over again now. Some of it's time, some of it's just, there's more to watch. Yeah. Right. Again, when you ran out of VHS tapes, you just started again. That's how it worked. Maybe you rented something new.
Well, and now we have adult money too, right? Like
we have adult money. We do.
Like
we do.
Well, I mean, that's even me, right? Like, I mean, I used to, I would play the same games over and over again. I would master them. Now I beat a game, I'm on to the next one. I beat a game, I'm on to the next one. People are like, "How do you beat 100 games a year?" I beat a game, I'm on to the next one.
Yeah. Like, well, it's like I remember with like even NES games, you can get so good at them. First off, speedrunning was like you could see how fast can you beat Mario 1.
Oh yeah.
And then there's times that I don't know how else to explain this. You could get so used to it that the music and the moves and everything would actually line up. And you could play the game in a way like that. It became a symphony in a lot of ways. But
we were speed running before speed running became a thing. Now people record it and Twitch stream it and all that other stuff. But like I can still beat Mega Man X in under 2 hours 100%.
Well, I remember getting good enough at Mario 1 that you could get through that game like almost in the morning before school.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you knew what to do, especially in
if you knew where the warp pipes were.
Yeah, I mean, there's things you could do to get ahead before school.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember a time I'd wake up early enough to do that, but it is what it is. Anyway, that was the 80s. That's 2020 something.
Yeah.
We're old. Okay. Moving on. Anyway, yeah. Back to the Future
Speaking of
musical.
things,
Highly recommended.
Speaking of things from, well, almost the 80s, from the early 90s that is no longer around. This was a big deal this week in the gaming industry.
This sucked.
It's basically it is official now. Print media in video games is dead because Game Informer, the last great holdout after 33 years, GameStop, the parent company, pulled the plug. Honestly, I mean, I don't want to sound callous, but I mean, just as somebody who also used to work in print media for a while, I'm not surprised this happened. But it is a shame because Game Informer did amazing work for many, many years and continued to be a focal point for the industry and a tent pole. And this is going to screw things up because it's not just the magazine, the website, every Game Informer as a brand has been nixed. So there's a lot of, God, there's so much to unpack here from, I know game companies now that are scrambling because they had part of their game coverage, some of their promotion, right? Dragon Age in the next issue is supposed to have a huge thing in Game Informer. Now, where are they going to, now they got all those interviews, all that content, all that just gone, just completely disappeared. So now you've got people at EA and probably other game companies that had been planned to do stuff with Game Informer, stuff that was in the can, months of coverage that has now been nixed, right? Obviously, dozens of people lost their jobs, right? More unemployed people. I mean, this is a week. I mean, I'm not one who talks about stocks or anything like that, but like, I don't know if you know, folks have noticed that the tech NASDAQ is completely like in the toilet. Like the Intel fired 15,000 people last week. Brutal. 2 more game studios closed last week. Again, now Game Informer, right? It is a bad time in tech, folks. That's all I'm going to get into. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty about the Japanese market and this and how the dominoes effect. I'm not going to get into all that. But like, it's a bad time in tech, and it's been a bad time in tech. And if you want to count between video games and tech in general, we've lost probably over 50,000 jobs over the last year and a half.
Mm-hmm. Been brutal.
It's been awful. And then now Game Informer is again just the latest thing to suffer, and now it sounds like also Ziff Davis, who owns IGN, is going to buy, it sounds like, CNET and probably merge IGN and CNET, which of course only this was breaking literally like right before we went live. This is, I mean, again, if that goes through, if that happens, that's whenever there's a merger, there's people get fired. Like that's what happens. Officially, The Verge and Axios reporting that Ziff Davis is acquiring CNET for $100 million. And guess what? Whenever you make a merger like that, people get fired. That's what happens. That's what always happens. It sucks, but that's the way these companies operate. They don't care about you, folks. And it's just really, really sad what happened with Game Informer, and so many amazing articles and so many people who have come out of that who are still in games now, people scrambling. I will say I feel awful for the people who lost all of their career writing, people who because they pulled the plug on everything and they didn't have a chance to even back it up. Like a lot of folks, which has become very common in Twitter and X now, is that in the gaming industry, that's how people are finding out they're getting fired. People are finding out on social media that they're being fired, that their company is shutting down. But I will say this for the future, because I've had friends go through this. I myself have never gone through this because I had the foresight to be like, oh, if I left this company, they're going to erase everything. They're going to erase me. Back up your stuff, folks. And the second you think that something like this can't happen to you, it's going to happen to you. Nobody is safe. Like, I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. If you're in media, and as somebody who's now a veteran of media for 20 years, no job is ever 100% safe. And you should back up anything you ever written, anything you ever shot, anything you ever recorded.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I've been telling this to people for years, and they still get blindsided. It happened with Machinima. It happened with Game Informer. Please back up your stuff. If you like something you've written, put it on a personal website. Password protect it. Don't make it public. I get it. Like there's you obviously you're not trying to compete with the people you're working for. But now, when something like this happens, your digital footprint's been erased. And that's a sin because so much great writing over the years. Now, obviously, we still have the print magazines and things of that nature if people have kept them. But for people who only like for the online segment of things, it's gone. Protect yourselves. Nobody is safe. Nobody in media is safe ever. But this is a sin. This is really, really a sin. So, Lee, your thoughts.
Well, more questions, Ray. I mean, look, we knew this was going to happen. Everything was leading towards this. It's sad. I'm not bringing light to that. But print media as a whole is not surviving. So the questions I have for you is this: where are game enthusiasts getting their news? Is it right off of the Xbox homepage? Are they going to third parties? Like, where are people getting the information that Game Informer, AGM, and some of these other magazines were providing?
So there's still IGN. There's still a couple of big websites, GameSpot and whatnot. Some of it is the rise of the influencer, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram. Some of it is sometimes people aren't just diving as deep as they used to, right? Like a lot of these like really in-depth interviews and story pieces and things that we used to read growing up, they're not getting eyeballs. Right. So people are just glossing over it and really just holding on to preview and review coverage. And so then you have things like the Jeff Keighley Summer Game Fest or Gamescom, and people are just watching trailers or Nintendo Direct or a Sony Direct or a Microsoft, right? So some of it is just coming from the first parties, which is always dangerous because obviously they're trying to sell you something.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. Is there an IMDb for games?
Like what do you mean?
Well, we don't have Siskel and Ebert anymore, and I don't think a lot of people trust movie reviews like they used to. No. Right. So like I think that like IMDb or even like the tomato score, like that's where people really look if they want stuff now.
There's there's OpenCritic, right? Mm-hmm. They're OpenCritic, Metacritic to a lesser degree at this point. Folks don't listen to Metacritic as much anymore because people know that it's weighted and all this other stuff. But OpenCritic is still like the one that collects all the reviews and has a good place, like says like, and even does a great job. Even I still have a profile on OpenCritic where you can see all my career reviews and how I scored things, and you could see that it even says it's like Ray trends to be a harsher reviewer than the
no, that's the review. That's the reviewer you want. I mean, Ray, look, when I look at Game Informer, where I fault the print leadership, this is not people involved in the magazines, the leadership, is I think they failed to evolve heavily with the times. I think that they were late to the web. I think they were late to video media. I think they put all their cards into this magazine kind of knowing it was going to die because, as you said, they don't really care. They can end it. They're fine at the end of the day. They're millionaires, right? And I get frustrated when there's no foresight to evolve. Whereas I look at Game Informer and I'll throw EGM in there a little bit like Blockbuster, right? Whereas like Netflix was there, they just didn't pick up on it, right? So we're gonna die on this magazine. It's well, you're gonna die. Look, I can tell you this right now from a business standpoint. If you stop evolving, you will perish. Someone will come up with a better idea. I know this well in my own business. All right. You have to evolve. You have to innovate. I think also too that
and you have to invest.
You have to invest in good people. You have to take care of your people. You're not wrong about corporate culture. People get fired. The exodus though that's happening in the gaming world right now, which in time will lead way for a new generation or new openings in the industry. But right now, you guys are in hell. But look, the economy has changed tremendously since 2019, and nothing from the past is coming. It's like the economy is not open anymore like it used to be. It's very much a street fight right now across the lexicon. This isn't limited to just gaming, although gaming is getting hit harder than most. They're relying on that stat that the gaming world makes more money than film and music and everything combined. But it's sad to see Game Informer go, but I think what's even more sad is that Game Informer did not become something else. I mean, you just saw all the cable systems do this, turn into streaming, and they did it effectively, and they had a plan, and they knew to do it. They got every cent out of the cable system before they switched to streaming, but they figured out a way. All right. Actually, the biggest brilliance of any cable provider was the internet. And understanding that if we get the internet in your home, we got you. You don't even need to get TV at that point.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that Game Informer, EGM, all of them didn't do something like this. And they failed to innovate. And that's why they died. Now, with that said, something new will come up.
Yeah.
All right. And again, for all the reviewers, yourself included, it's about finding ways that if you still want to do that, that's the way I should say it. There's methods to do it. There's methods to get that out there. You guys are professionals, but you have to get the attention. And that's why I'm asking those questions. Like, where is the attention for game reviews and reviews, rankings and reviews? I mean, is there even attention for it anymore?
Well, and I think that's the thing is like, I don't think that there's even as much of a demand as there once was in the traditional sense, but people do want to know people's opinions, right? Like I played Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splintered Fate on Friday on my Twitch stream. And a lot of people were like, "Oh man, I never even heard of this game. When did this come out?" It came out a week ago, and they were like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, well, what do you think of it, right? And people wanted to know
that's the way to do it.
They didn't necessarily want to score, but they wanted to know what I thought of it. And I was like, "Look, it's a Hades clone. If you played Hades, it does this, and this different." Blah blah blah. Blah. And then people were like, "Oh man, like I'm gonna," and like people from my stream went and bought the game, because that's where they're getting their. It's more of a one-on-one with certain personalities and people and things of that nature. Yeah. So like, I mean, like even that, like my streams are like, we can't wait for you to get Star Wars Outlaws. I'm like, I can't wait to get Star Wars Outlaws. You know, I mean, even that, like, I'm going to mention Kyle, who's very, very generous. He wanted to see me play college football. He donated the money for me to buy the game, to see me play the game.
That's
so
cool.
Like,
yeah. Did you win with Rutgers yet? Did you win the NCAA
Yes,
championship?
I turned Rutgers into a perennial powerhouse.
Yeah.
So
you're an SEC team now. Look, I'll say this too. Here's the lingering questions that no one can answer, right? You look at Game Informer. They've got probably tens of thousands of emails, maybe hundreds of thousands, and addresses. Where's that information? How is that information not used to get people to do something? Well, and where is that information now?
It's gone back to GameStop. It's gone back to the brick and mortar store, and now they're going to find a way. They want you to come inside and try to buy a physical copy of the game.
That's what I'm saying is, like, there's just a lack of marketing here. I mean, that's the greatest asset, is you have the information for people who want to do stuff. How are you getting to them? It's just a massive failure of innovation. And again, if just the magazine was like, hey, we're not going to print anymore, we're going to go online, or
would be completely understandable.
Like, or hey, GameInformer.com is still going to be here. They just shut it off. It's so lazy. Like you're telling me you couldn't keep GameInformer.com on as an archive? Like,
they even deleted the Twitter. They even deleted the Twitter.
What is that? That is horrible.
That is a purge of rare. Again, the closest I can think of is Machinima, but it is a purge of rare scale.
There are people that would have bought that.
Yes.
I bet you right now, all the people that have written for that magazine would have bought that just to keep it online.
There's again, this is again with the corporate culture.
It's weird.
They're fine settling for the tax write-off.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
Oh, I know.
We talk about it with Warner Brothers all the time. They're fun. It's why I haven't watched it yet, but from all accounts, the best Batman thing done in years was going to be a tax write-off until Amazon saved it. Said, no, we'll give you money, Warner Brothers. And then Zaslav was like, fine, I'll take the money from Amazon to put this Batman show on Amazon.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you didn't want to put it on Max?
Well, look, I understand how these tax write-offs works. I really do. I know exactly how they work. And it's a shame that things like this are allowed to happen. I will say that I do know that the government is starting to look into these situations.
Yes, the FTC,
whereas they do not want a tax write-off to be an excuse. They want it to be a solution, right? Yeah. And the thing is, like, that it hurts, I'll just say, the American business engine when you do this, right? You don't want to do
Yes.
this, right? So,
Yes.
I'm very interested in that case. I won't bore our audience with it, but I'm interested to see how that works. Is it just like monopolization? Google was just hit with a monopoly suit
Yes.
for search engines,
Yeah.
which is like,
And,
amazing when you think about it. I mean, basically
yeah.
what that suit says is they went out of their way to make sure nobody else can do it.
Right.
But here's the deal. Like, look, here's something you're going to start saying. We like to make predictions on the show that absolutely come true. I'm not talking about the end of Google or anything like that, but the search engine has been our go-to for 25 years now.
Yeah.
Fair?
Yep.
With the advent of AI, which is not really AI, but the advent of that technology, I think you are about to see a massive shift in how we acquire information. I think that you searching for things is going to change. You're not going to just search for a definition or anything like that anymore. You're going to ask a question that's going to get a very in-depth answer. AI or ChatGPT, you can see the future here. Once you put that into a speaking, moving apparatus, you could call it a robot or a droid. We're not far off from that, man.
Yeah.
We're not far off from something walking around this office or moving. I always thought it would be like more of a trash can dome looking thing that's blue or white, that makes beeps noises like that. That would be fine. People are going to totally do that. But you could go, hey, R2, or whatever you want to call this apparatus. How many gold records does Taylor Swift have? And R2 would be like, Lee, you don't listen to Taylor Swift. Why do you do that? I'm like, I do listen to Taylor Swift. You're not a Swiftie. That's true. We'd have a conversation about it. Okay, Taylor Swift's awesome, by the way. I never understood what Taylor Swift hates. She makes fantastic music. More of a Lady Gaga man myself, but that's for another time, right? Way off target here. Game Informer, go yourself for doing that to all those people that have written there for that long.
Yeah.
That's brutal. But look, I will say this. Not saying this with any glee. It was time for that to end. I don't like the way it ended, though.
No, they did. The way they went about it was just to kneacap all those people like that was just
do that. Yeah, that's brutal. That's wrong. That is wrong. I will say that.
And again, though, this is and go back to the tax law briefly. Is that the law was written a certain way, to your point, to help people.
It's a solution. Yeah, it's not
solution.
Not meant to be.
But now
people
are finding the loopholes,
right,
and taking advantage of it, and they're going against what the intention of the law was,
right?
Because they keep finding it's like, oh, well, you didn't say this, and everything is taking so damn literally now.
Well,
that it's
look, Ray, I'll go back and forth on that. Yes, everything you said is 100% accurate, but that's also the point. Is that the way things were devised was knowing people would get greedy and try and find those loopholes. That's why laws can be changed or updated. So it's a vicious cycle. But I don't know if there's anything better out there. I can tell you this right now, people. Ray, we can make jokes about this. A person or a ruler or someone just saying that's the way it is by themselves is not a solution. Okay, we learned this with Anakin Skywalker. All right, and other people. Now, some people, that's how America's run. Not at all. All right, there are situations where you might think that, but when you look at the three branches of government, while things move very slowly from a human lifespan, and that's not always okay because there are people out there that are suffering and do not have the same opportunity. The point is this: it changes over time. It evolves over time. All right, it's never fast enough for any of us here. But the whole idea of it was it would get better for generations to come. And for the most part, it has. But that doesn't mean we're done or anywhere close to where we need to be. That's not what I'm saying here. But the laws are meant to be broken in the sense of then they're meant to be amended. And it's a vicious cycle. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this is amended because you should not be able to capitalize on a tax write-off like that. And that's what they're doing. They're capitalizing and make more money on the tax write-off than releasing the film, which, by the way, Warner Brothers is so stupid because after the hoopla for Batgirl and for the Looney Tunes film, they would have made way more than the tax write-off.
It advertised itself, basically.
Yeah.
Yep. But speaking of a vicious cycle, real quick last note, my open critic career, of all the games I reviewed, they took 140 games from my review career. The average score of those games was a 75. The average score that I gave was a 71.6. Just a
Ooh.
little harsher than the
Ooh,
average.
girl. Yeah,
Little
no,
harsher than
you've
the
always
average.
been unabashed in your reviews, and I think that I've
Yes.
always appreciated that because, you're just telling me how it is. You're telling all of us how it is for you, and that's okay.
Yep.
I think that where reviews go wrong is when you appease people.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Although I did give Deadpool and Wolverine an 11 out of 10.
Yep, can't do that.
I did do
Can't
that.
do that. 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10.
It was an 11 out of 10. I broke the fourth wall.
You can't do that.
I can do whatever I want. This is my show.
It's our show.
I'm not Deadpool.
You're
If we were Deadpool and Wolverine, I would absolutely be Deadpool, and you would absolutely be Wolverine.
That
no
is,
doubt in my mind.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. So, anyway, on that note, folks, we appreciate everybody for tuning in this week, as always. We hope you have a great rest of your week. We will be back next week with more, with our Olympic recap and all kinds of stuff as Lee holds up both of his mics, his Geeks Who Like Sports mic and his Back to the Future mic. Not mic, mug.
Mug.
Not mic, mug.
Hey, you know what's in this mug? My ball. For those of you who don't know, go hockeywraparound.com. Get a 3-pack of my ball. Help a dog in need. Let's go.
All right, I'm gonna go take a nap because I'm grumpy and tired because I'm Wolverine. So for Lee, I'm Ray. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. Thanks y'all for tuning in or watching. We always appreciate it. And we'll see you next time here on Geeks Who Like Sports.